Hey, what's up, guys? We had Sean Davidson and McKay Nilson on this episode to talk about art direction, photography, and just telling the story of your design. It was great. I do want to get to a few announcements. Our first one, special announcement, we are doing a meetup in New York, and that is going to be, if you're listening to this in a timely manner, that's going to be this Thursday, December 12th at Spritzen House 33 at 8 p.m. The info is on our Instagram, so you can check that out. We also like to thank our promotional partner at Let's Design Daily. They post amazing design work from creatives across the world. And we are still doing the Minor Details podcast survey, so go and give us your feedback on the podcast. We will be announcing the winner soon on the season finale this year. And also join the Discord. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your tips and tricks on getting the right photo and telling the story of your designs. And I think there might be one or two expletives in this episode, but other than that, let's get to it. Listen up. Listen up. I'm Nick.
I'm James.
I'm McKay.
And I'm Sean.
And we are four industrial designers in the big city.
Sweating the small stuff.
Guys, thank you so much for coming in today. This is our first debut of four microphones running at once.
We're hitting it hot.
We're super excited to have Sean Davidson and McKay Nilson on the podcast this week. And, we want to get into a little bit of your background before we get into it. But we really admire you guys' eye for good photography and art direction, and as well as design. So that's kind of the episode. But I want to hear a little bit about your backstory for those that might not be as familiar with your work. So yeah, McKay, tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got into design, where you've worked.
So I actually started studying engineering. I grew up building things, making things with my dad, and kind of wanted to go into mechanical engineering. But then as I was in school for that, I kind of learned that I really liked art and was really interested in that and wanted to combine those two things. And so I went into architecture school for about a year, and then after that ended up in a multidisciplinary design program at the University of Utah. And so from there I kind of learned about all the different areas of design and carried that into working as an industrial designer. And so I've worked in museums, designing exhibits. I've worked designing products, very traditional industrial design. And currently I work in an agency called Schoolhouse, where I work on architectural elements for retail spaces, as well as designing products for the beauty industry.
That seems like a good array.
That was
engineering,
a beautiful
architecture, and now industrial design, and now spatial design, I guess?
Spatial design.
Spatial design in space.
Space design.
How do you create space in space, McKay?
Oh, man. That's awesome. But you started out in Utah. You're from Utah. And
Salt Lake City.
And you also, for everyone that's listening, you also moved to New York pretty recently.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
So that's great. It's great to have you here. I know that you're pretty big in the Instagram community, so we're all kind of connected there.
Yeah, McKay invited us out on a date when he first arrived.
Dude date.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good old Instagram sketch date,
Yeah, it was great. So.
And the rest is history.
It is. The rest will be in your memoir.
So Sean, let's hear a little bit about your backstory.
All right. I'm from North Carolina.
North Carolina boys repping.
As hard as we possibly can, without being too weird.
Outer Banks.
Let's see. Went to design camp in high school. It was a camp at NC State, and I was able to spend a week learning different processes of graphic design, architecture, industrial design, and and I actually really liked graphic design the most, because they had us on a project which was literally forming blue foam into a guitar, and I didn't love it. And I was like, graphic design is so much smoother, it's so much easier, I like this, it's nice for me.
Not messy.
I guess about a year later, I forgot about all that. I went to Appalachian State and studied industrial design. And ever since I've been, which was in Boone, North Carolina, I moved up to New York about 4 years ago. Started working for a toy company. I was a junior industrial designer there for about a year and a half. Worked on an array of products, some furniture for kids, mostly in the educational space. And then I started doing kind of design direction for this brand. And that was children's toys, teaching them about emotions. Then started getting into a digital platform, started designing UI, UX for that, which was obviously outside of my realm, but still did it because that's what they do to you when you're in a junior position. They just tell you to go do something.
And you do it.
And you do it. And it was a great experience.
No, like, I can't believe you did it.
Yeah. Wow, you had no life for a while. Cool.
Now we'll start paying you.
No, not really. So after about a year and a half of that, I was living in New Jersey at the time, commuting up to Hudson Valley and Tuxedo Park. Living in New York City on the weekends, living a split life, didn't love it. Moved into Brooklyn about 3 years ago. Started working for a small architectural rendering studio, kind of doing creative direction, and then also working at a small, like, luxury small design shop doing furniture and lighting. That was called Coil and Drift. And I was kind of doing everything technical. So doing all the CAD models, doing all the graphics, do all the photos, retouching. Did that for about a year and a half, and then moved on to a company called Innovant, where I was designing desk systems, height adjustable desk systems for open offices, mostly financial clients. And just recently, this Monday, started a new job at a company called Best Made, where I'm an industrial designer once again, designing hard goods for everyday living.
Can't get away from it.
Beyond that, my secondary background is photography, which I've been doing since I was maybe 12 years old. My dad handed me a camera, fell in love with the process. It's so quick. Grew up with ADD, so, focusing on one thing for a long time was super difficult. So photography was instantaneous. Someone was shooting film, so it really wasn't. Took about 3 years to finally get a digital camera. But during that time, I was shooting skateboarding, snowboarding, a lot of portraits for MySpace, because that's what you do when you're the only kid with the camera, and that's the thing that you do.
Was this like,
what's
was this,
MySpace?
2008?
This was around 2008. I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
So I lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There was a big music scene there. Started doing some band photography.
So it wasn't just like somebody from your school being like,
no,
you
it was
take
all my
really sweet
friends.
Photos make me look hot.
It was
my
like,
MySpace.
It kind of was, but it was my friends. And also I was kind of the one wanting to do it because I
Right.
wanted to shoot, and I enjoyed the process and
Yeah.
making portraits and like not being weird about it, and like trying to find an avenue for when
Right.
you're like a weird, awkward kid, like it's just you and your buds. So you're just taking pictures of them and like researching a ton about like how do you use flashes, and going on eBay and buying like crappy $5 radio slaves that work about 2% of the time. That was my background, basically, just making it
We're already
work.
going off the hill here. I don't even know what a
Just
radio
make-
slave is. What is
Just
this?
making it work. Yeah.
like
So
Radiohead.
ever since then,
Didn't we fight a war over that? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
So are you doing TikTok portraits now?
TikTok.
not yet. No.
We've gone
It's
from
in a new
MySpace
wave.
straight to TikTok. We skipped over everything else. So I'm trying to recall where we met, Sean. I believe it was, again, Instagram.
Just Instagram. Yeah.
And we realized that we had so much in common that we were the same person.
We
actually.
are the same human.
Yeah, North Carolina
Yeah.
boys, industrial design boys. It was
Like the same
check,
music.
check,
It's all the
check.
same.
So yeah, we connected when I moved up to New York, and yeah, been hanging out since.
Yeah. And since then, I've been doing a lot of photo on the side as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you've done photography for all three of us.
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. So
Yeah.
is it time to get into it?
I think it's time to get into it. There were some things, with each of those stories where I feel like we can sort of dive into it.
Yeah, I think generally the reason we wanted to bring both you guys on is, as industrial designers, we're always thinking about product design and trying to craft the best user experience and create the most beautiful product we can. And we oftentimes forget how to present our products. Like we have a finished thing. Maybe we even got it to the final manufacturing stage. We shipped it, but now you just have a plastic thing sitting on your desk or whatever it is, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I need to show this to the world. how do you do that? And I guess that is a lot of times photography.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, now it's a lot of rendering as well. Maybe we can get into that later. But, you know, as designers, I feel like I'm not the best photographer. I can get by with my phone, but I don't know. I always call on you guys for the final stuff. So I know you guys, we kind of want to talk a little bit about art direction. So first of all, I just want to hear what you guys explain what art direction is, because I'm not really even 100% sure.
I think it's thinking about how you want to tell the story of a project or a product.
Okay.
And really ultimately it's creating the look and the feel and the story behind all of the imagery that's associated with the product or any sort of campaign. Mm-hmm. And kind of deciding how you want to tell that story through images.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's like how emotion conveys. What do you think?
Because I remember when we first met, McKay, and I was sort of talking to you about your process, you talked a lot about writing in your process and that like exposing a lot of things on how you would display an object, how you would depict an object. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what the easiest thing to do is just to take a picture of a product, highlight its special curves or fillets or whatever you think is special about that product. But that, at the end of the day, that's not what is going to resonate with people and what's going to make them feel something or even want to hire you in sort of an application process. Mm-hmm. And so usually what I do even when I'm just starting a project, is I start to write about it and think about what is the story behind this that is going to make people care. Mm. Like what's going to resonate with people, what's going to make them feel something or want to use this every day in their lives. And so I often spend a lot of time like thinking about the brief and thinking about, before I even put pen to paper to start sketching, like what's going to drive this process.
Mm. So you already think about how you're going to convey the story before you even start the product? I mean, I guess that's logical, but...
Not necessarily like what the final images or anything will look like,
right.
But more it's, in the beginning, I would say it's the story of who is the person that's going to use this and how are they going to use it and what is it going to mean to them.
And how specific do you get in terms of that person?
In terms of that person.
Do they have a name? Are you writing down this
are
long tail?
Are you literally writing a story, like beginning, middle, end?
Mark Twain?
Or is it kind of snapshots, or how does it...
It really depends on what I'm designing. Sometimes, for example, with the beauty projects we do at Schoolhouse, a lot of times we have very specific customers or clientele in mind that we want to design that experience for. And so with that, it's very easy to like try to get in the mindset of this person and think about what they need to feel while they're shopping. And so in those cases, I do tailor it to like a very specific person. It's not so much writing like a creative writing story. Mm-hmm. It's more just like thinking about the user journey or user experience. But when I'm designing more for, like with the lamp I designed for Gantry a little while ago, I kind of felt like I was the user for that. And like, it was more just about people in general. And so for that one, I want to just think about general human emotions, how we interact with the world around us.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, and I feel like this is actually a good point to bring both of you in on because you, Sean, did the photography for this project, for the gantry lamp that McKay designed. And so what was that process like working together? You know, was it this joint thing of, hey, like, what is the art direction for this piece? Or McKay, did you have like a vision in mind? And how did that exactly work out, that collaboration?
So to give a little background on this project, the concept of the lamp, I started by just like pasting together pipe, paper, cardboard, and making these really rough prototypes. And through doing that, I kind of found this one form that I recognized a gesture in that seemed familiar. And after examining a little bit and writing about it, like I realized that this was the gesture of one person giving something to another, kind of characterized by this bowed head and like a base that has this open vessel in it.
Right.
And so that kind of became the underpinning for that story. And that's kind of, in this case, I did a little bit of a reverse process where I was just making forms, exploring functions, and then the story kind of came out of that. And so then I carried into that writing phase we were talking about and kind of wrote the story about how this is like a companion it helps you, it provides this useful utility of storage and light.
Yeah.
but it also is a friend and has like these soft curves, these very emotional
Right.
underpinnings that feel familiar and comfortable.
Right.
I do want to say I really like the fact that that you highlighted that the form came first and then the story second, because I think a lot of people get tripped up in sometimes thinking that there has to be the story first, there has to be the reason first, and then you do the form. But it's like you said, it's ambiguous. Sometimes it's vice versa. Maybe sometimes it is a form exploration, and you come up and you kind of discover it as you go.
Yeah, and it's never a linear process. Like the very initial thoughts behind this were that I wanted to create something that was more an interaction that was deeper than just flipping a switch to turn
Right.
a lamp on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just had this very broad idea that I wanted to create something that was a little bit more interactive, and
Right.
that's where I began this form exploration, and then take a step back and carry deeper into that story.
Yeah.
And the base has that little like cup, so it's kind of even
Yeah.
strengthens that idea of like giving something to someone.
Yeah, and so that is kind of the point where after I designed this, it kind of had this personality around it, and that's what me and Sean really want to carry through in these images, like the very soft, familiar aspects of this that makes it feel like it's a friend, not just an object.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear from Sean, like when McKay talked to you about this, like what did he say to you, and then how did you interpret that, and then, like, yeah.
Mostly just starting with references.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you looking at that you're interested in? What do you think backs that narrative up? Obviously, for this, you're not going to use like a Terry Richardson bright flash on it because that is...
Wait, we got to slow down, Sean. What is a Terry Richardson?
Terry Richardson is a very controversial photographer from early, I don't know. He has shot a lot of model photography. He's like a character.
Very, very flash
But-
heavy.
Yeah,
Miley
but
Cyrus,
Okay.
yeah, but he kind of brought this bright flash back into popularity.
Interesting.
Along with some other photographers as well. But like
Right.
recently, even I've seen a Nordstrom advertisement like just today on subways using bright flash,
Right.
and it's like it is very much.
It's very bold.
Yeah, it's very much currently what a lot of art directors and creative directors are referencing because it is just what people are doing.
I mean, there's a
Well,
lot
and
of
it's kind of this,
hard
like-
shadows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this scaled back, like we reach this age with Instagram and Squarespace where everything's just polished and perfect. And so it's kind of striking that chord in society where people are wanting to pull back from that perfectionism.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like really crisp and like defined.
Honest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, coming back to the softness of
Yeah.
shooting the gantry lamp, McKay just kind of gave me a few reference points, and we just very much played it by ear. Like, he knew that he wanted to include some certain objects in the scene, so he gathered those. And then on the day of the shoot, we just kind of played by ear. We like knew generally what the setup was going to be. So I just set up lighting, we shot, we messed around, played around, just kind of trying to massage the visual into what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it goes for a lot of my direction as well, working with clients. And it's like, and generally that's how a lot of my friends work as well, is especially in New York. It's photography comes in the tail end of so many projects. No one has a budget for it.
Right.
No one really has an idea of what they want. They just generally know, oh, I saw this, I like this. Let's kind of emulate that.
Okay.
And that's, I kind of think, of the current status of maybe like lower end photo projects for clients. I mean, it's always going to be like the $100,000 5-day shoots that happen that people are really putting out magical things
Right.
that have massive teams working on them for. But yeah, I would say like just playing by ear is kind of how our process went.
Yeah. I mean, I think the result was really nice. Obviously, you did play up the softness. You have curtains in the background of this
Velvet.
lamp.
Right?
Velvet curtains?
Velvet.
And some flowers. And so it does really lend itself to kind of the curvaceous and soft nature of the lamp.
How many photos did you take during this photo shoot?
these are the only ones.
4 photos.
We've only got 4 shots of this.
But even going beyond just the propping or the styling of these sets, you can tell that Sean paid very close attention to detail, and there were things like, if you look closely at the photos, you can see he used a very soft focus, so you don't get any like really crisp hard edges, even where in reality they are.
What does a soft focus mean?
So a soft focus, Sean, you should.
Well,
explain
I
this
think
one.
what McKay is saying is that with lenses, there is an aperture, right?
Yeah.
And the numbers start small, 1.4 up to f22. And when you shoot at a wider aperture, it's only going to have, it's a focal plane that's very shallow.
Right.
So it's going to have a lot of things thrown out of
Blurred
focus,
out.
blurred out.
Depth of field.
F22, you can shoot, it's usually what you shoot if you shoot a landscape. So everything is in focus. So for this, I mean, typically in the studio, you're shooting f8 and you're shooting with flashes. So everything is kind of controlled. So you have a larger depth of field, more things are in focus. So I think that's what I shot for this, was like f8, which is a very just normal depth of field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't answer my question. How many photos? I just want to know, because I feel like it is an important question, because I feel like there's a lot of people, myself included, that would feel a lot of pressure to be able to like get that shot in a certain amount of time. Like I feel like for those more, anxious designers that are like, I don't know how long this is supposed to take.
Like,
I don't know how long a professional would take to set this up to like really get the good shots.
And how do you know which photos to get and how and which, if you got the photos or not? Like,
It's just,
I have an object here.
yeah.
Do I put it on its side? Like, what? Like, I don't know. I guess I take photos of every side of it, but like, I don't know. How do you brainstorm
Yeah, I
that
mean,
out?
I think you always want to have a game plan going into it. You want to have, you want to know if you like have, you're shooting for web, you want them all in white on seamless, just product shots. But then if you're shooting something more composed, more of a scene, it's all about feeling. Like, does it feel right? Is this is this the image that I have in my head?
Yeah.
As far as like how many images I shot that day, we shot a number of different products in over a day. So maybe shot 600 over the whole day, but for just the lamp, maybe 150.
Okay.
Through different scenes, different scenarios. But like, I probably shoot 5 to 6 testing lighting just to like, I mean, generally, if you want soft lighting, you have to use certain modifiers.
Okay.
You can't just aim a flash at it and it's just going to be what you want. You've got to balance the light. You've got to put a softbox on it. You've got to put a beauty dish on it. There's different modifiers that you use to get a different look. So it's not really about how many pictures you take. It's just you should. I mean, if you're experimenting, it could take 1 million.
Right.
And it's part of a process. It's just like you're building on previous experiences and using knowledge that you have.
Right.
Well, one of the methods we use with this is like, we had Sean's camera tethered to my computer off to the side, and so we were looking at every single shot on a big screen blown up. And the entire time I was looking at that, giving him feedback. He would look at it and making slight adjustments to the props, or just kind of fine-tuning that way, trying to get the right shot.
Right.
As well as one of the techniques we used on some of these shots, you can see there's kind of an iridescent coloring in the lighting.
Yeah.
So we
experimented quite a lot on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the most successful shoots I've had and the most fun ones are the ones where I've had lots of materials just out there to play with, props, any kinds of things. And I had these iridescent films, and so we started holding those in front of the flash, and we really liked the effect it gave. And we probably shot maybe 50 photos just trying to get a bunch of different variations of this flash going through this iridescent film.
Right. It's like the Instagram filter that has like the rainbow crush your eye. You know what I'm talking about?
Basically, yeah. It's exactly that.
And the result of that is these images where the lighting doesn't look, it looks very dreamy and like surreal.
Right.
And that adds to the softness of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reason that I like to get into these kind of details is because I feel like it's akin to a design student seeing all those crappy models and all those thumbnail sketches. It's just like knowing how much actual like work went behind these 4 beautiful images
Yeah.
is like 150 pictures. Like, okay, like I feel relieved by that. Like I can feel the relief to experiment, to really test things out and not feel like I have to get that perfect shot in like
Absolutely.
a certain amount of time or, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's really cool.
I think maybe something else I kind of wanted to talk about, and you started to touch on it a little bit, Sean, is around the importance of good photography. I feel like, kind of like what you said, Sean, earlier, it's like the product photography is kind of this last thing that you think about. You know, you finish your thing, you're like, oh crap, we should probably get some photos of it, right?
Yeah.
And especially younger designers, maybe in design school, or even, you know, people that maybe work for a company that doesn't value product photography as much. Like, how can we instill the value of that? And like, why is product photography valuable? And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
So the school that I came out of, University of Utah, didn't even have an industrial design program, and so that's why I was in this multidisciplinary design program.
Right. Yeah. You meant. So what does that even mean? Just design in general?
It's a great question.
Okay.
When I joined the program, there wasn't even a graduating class yet. It was the second year of it, and so I was in the second graduating class, and so it was very experimental. It was like a choose your own adventure book for college.
Okay.
Essentially, like
Interesting.
the liberal arts design degree.
Okay.
And so when I came out of that, I didn't really have any hard skills. I didn't have a lot of skills that other industrial design graduates were coming out of school with. And so I had to find a way to make myself stand out among this crowd of people who had like these names that they had interned with and things like that. And so for me, that was kind of where I really came to understand the importance of that, of communicating your work in a way that's really going to resonate with people.
So this multidisciplinary program almost instilled that essence of like, hey, there's this other kind of side of conveying your idea that a lot of industrial designers aren't doing, but you had that kind of edge that you were able to.
Yeah, like a lot of what we
Exercise.
focused on was the very holistic aspects of design, of the storytelling, the research, the user journey.
Yeah, I can see how that plays into it. I don't know. What do you think, Sean? Like,
Man, how do you instill like
I
good
almost,
design values in a large company or company in general anyways? Like,
Right.
I mean, I guess I'm not
it's a $1
necessarily
million question.
I'm not asking that of you, but like, in my opinion, I almost think that the photography itself is 90% of the design.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's a hot take. You ready? I know there's a lot of designers out there, and some like even design studios that will just make a simple geometric shape, like extrude a slot shape, take a really hot photo of it, and call it a day. I'm like, we did it, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just so funny that the way you present it with a photograph makes the whole design,
Yeah,
because it's really just that simple. Like,
It's
hey,
all about appeal.
yeah.
You know, you just have to make something different or even just glamorous feeling or just like catch someone's eye. You just got to catch them for more than a split second and you've done your job.
I also, I definitely agree, because we live in a day and age, and whether you agree with this or not, we live in a digital world. Like, photos are the representation
Even
of the product.
paper. Flipping through
Yeah.
a book in a bookstore.
That's true.
If the cover doesn't catch your attention, you're
Yeah.
not going to look at it. If you're flipping through it and you don't catch 5 pages that are like, oh, this is worth my time, you're not going to look at it.
Yeah,
You're not going to buy it.
And I even think we aren't even touching. Like, when's the last time you bought a product that you picked up in a store? Like, it's probably rarely. You probably picked it up in the store and you're like, I'll just figure it out.
Check the price
online.
on Amazon.
Or
Yeah.
when's the last time you bought a product that you like hadn't even heard of, or like especially in a store? You wouldn't like no one picks up products, well, at least not in New York City, that you're like walk into a store and you're like, wow, I've never seen this. You're like, oh, I saw this on Instagram. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that
picture's
I've
better.
really
That's true.
seen
That's
in
interesting
the
too.
in the beauty industry, especially. Like, all the products are essentially, they're the same formulations, more or less. They're the same exact products, rewrapped every season in new colors or whatever. And so, like, what's going to make you buy a Gucci lipstick versus a YSL lipstick? It's like,
Probably just namesake. Probably just, you know, heritage.
And a lot of it comes down to the art direction, the campaigns, the stories they tell around these products. The way they show imagery that says like an image that conveys you're going to feel this way if you wear this product.
I feel like that's starting to even get into like branding in a way, right?
It is. It's very connected.
It's all under creative, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Like at Schoolhouse, we do branding and art direction, kind of run the full gamut of design services. And when we brand a company, we include style guides for their art direction.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense to do the whole thing holistically.
Mm-hmm.
I've even had potential clients where they ask me for a product design, and I look at their website and I say, "Hey guys, you already have products that you're selling, and you just don't have a great website. You don't have a good you don't have a good representation of your products." I mean, I even say this this is obviously not a good business strategy, but I just want to help the people out, and it's like, hey, use the money that you're gonna pay me for a new product. Take that money and go get some good photography done.
Yeah.
I'm a big photography supporter. I mean, sorry, I'm geeking out. It's just because
Do you have a bumper sticker?
Yeah, I support photographers. In school I did have a lot of photography friends, which was great, and I would definitely suggest that if anyone out there is listening, find someone that does great photography and just be friends with them. And see if you guys can collaborate.
Use them for free portfolio photos.
Right, exactly. Right. But yeah, I mean, I've always tried to get photography of all my products in my portfolio. I rarely have any renders. I think that's changing nowadays, though.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. KeyShot and a lot of these rendering softwares, and even a lot of these students now are using these softwares much more heavily than in the past. I never used KeyShot. Did you ever use KeyShot?
No.
Most tech products, a lot of beauty products that you see promotional posters, art directed content for, those are renders. A lot of people think they're photographs,
right?
But they're really just very high quality renderings. I mean, all of Apple's products that they show in a lot of different formats, not necessarily all, but a lot of them are just renders.
I mean, definitely Apple's products are renders. And there's some lifestyle photography in there. But when it comes to just a pure product, what's the value of photography over a render? And is there maybe it's not a either or question. Maybe it's just a scenario type of question. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, the thing you really can't get from a render is the human interaction or people actually using the product or living with the product.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also rendering, having a knowledge of photography would make your rendering a million times better, because you have to know studio lighting. You have to know, the concepts of 2-light, 3-light systems, or just generally knowing how things are reflective, how to light something, and how to get cast a shadow. It's all part of the same system. I mean, I feel like when I was in school, I was using all of my photo background while rendering as well. And that's also why I was super attracted to rendering in general, is because I can just do it on the computer. I don't have to do anything. It's sick.
You don't have to put up a lamp. You don't have to put the pole down. Yeah.
Well, and Bang & Olufsen is a really good example of a tech company. They make speakers and earphones that tends to go towards photography more than rendering. And what they focus on a lot with their headphones especially is not the product itself or the beauty of the product. I mean, they do show that, but they really focus on the lifestyle of the people who are using them.
Right.
And it's all model photography.
Yeah. I see one of the things that I see that might be a trend that is, is around right now, or maybe it's on its way out. I'm not sure. But just the trend of the product with a bunch of seemingly random stuff around it.
Styling.
So that's called styling.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's called,
I don't know. You guys
it's called
tell us.
design.
It's called design.
But when I see that kind of stuff, I'm trying to think of the person who's determining what goes into the shot. And I mean, when we did the photo shoot for my bottle opener, McKay, you brought a lot of props and the things, and I am curious how does one choose the right prop? And is it just experimentation, or is it again that whole how do we reflect the qualities of the product?
I think it depends on the situation. If you work for a company It might be, hey, like we have this on the calendar, we got to shoot something.
Right.
And it's someone low on the totem pole having to do the photography. And they look around, they see what they have, they make it work. No one will give them any money for a budget. So they just make it work. And that's, I think we see so much photography now that's kind of just a reflection of like, you know, what are the chances that there's going to be good photography or styling? It's just, you're just seeing more. So you're going to see more bad stuff too. And that's in there.
I mean, that's how I do it.
What if you go to the dollar store? Go to the dollar store and then you buy a bunch of like.
Okay, Nick.
You could do that.
Is there maybe an example of some art direction or something right now that you guys are like really inspired by photography? Like, I mean, you post, Sean, you post like you shout out a lot of photographers like in your stories and things, but I'm wondering if there's like not a campaign right now
Actually,
for a product.
Speaking of that, the holiday campaign for this product, small shop in Manhattan called Coming Soon, they just did an Edward Scissorhands themed holiday catalog. And they made a bunch of small mock-ups of like the Edward Scissorhand town with the objects that they sell, but also like lifestyle photography in a larger sense and styling it around, making it look like that. And it's hilarious and perfect and like super cute, and it works really well.
Wait, what products do these guys sell? It's
it's a shop. It's like a homeware shop.
Okay.
And put that on the
Interesting.
Minor Details site, and people will take a gander.
Yeah.
We can post some photos of it.
What about you, McKay? Is there anything recently where you're like, wow, that's an awesome campaign? Or
Lately, I've been really inspired by the photography style of Apartamento magazine. And it's what they do for a lot of the magazine is they go into the homes of designers or artists and things, and they just kind of interview them and take pictures of their space and how they live. And it's a little bit like that high flash kind of aesthetic where they're trying to, some of it's high flash, some of it's just very natural lighting, but it's all trying to capture these spaces as they really are rather than as like some idealized version of where these famous celebrities live. Interesting.
Is there a rule to like flash versus no flash, or like soft light versus it's just more of a emotional thing?
Yeah.
It's almost like I almost think of it as like playing music or something. It's just you kind of feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can always change it on the fly, right?
Yep.
If you want a hard flash or a soft flash.
are there any mistakes that you see people making when they're photographing their own work?
Especially maybe designers like us, like industrial designers.
Things that they could do to just like tweak it slightly that would elevate it.
I mean, a lot of it is in the post-production, the editing, the retouching, like just knowing your way around Camera Raw or Lightroom or whatever you're using to edit Photoshop.
I don't know what raw files do at all. I always see them, but I'm like, give me a JPEG.
Yeah, I think just like experimenting and seeing what the different sliders do and knowing like how to get a certain look and being comfortable with that. A lot of people just kind of take a lamp, put it on something, bam, there's no color correction. There's no thought about like needing to retouch out something, like taking away.
Please stop looking at my Instagram.
I think I'm kind of curious, like, what are those details that we need to start doing? Because me personally, I try to do some of those things. Like, I know I always try to make, I guess there's a thing where if you don't want to blow out a photo, right? Mm-hmm. Which means have a pure white spot, right? Is that correct? I don't know the right terminology. A highlight. Like, if I took a simple object on a white piece of paper background, I wouldn't want to make the paper pure white. I want to make it like 5% gray. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, good. I got that right. And then I also do a little bit of like clone tool if I see like a piece of dirt on a photo or something like that, or like even if it's on the paper itself.
Nick just wants reassurance.
Am I doing it
am I
okay?
doing this right? I literally have never watched any tutorials or anything. I'm just like,
I mean, I definitely see a lot of portfolios and things where there's like dust on the surface they're photographing on, or like smudges or scratch. Like they didn't take the time to either clean the object or clean the surface beforehand. And it really shows and distracts from the story you're trying to tell.
Unless the story you're trying to tell is of a cleaning object, like a duster or...
Yeah.
Well, then it's not doing its job
Take
correctly.
it, James.
Before, McKay, it's before.
I don't know. I mean, like, you can buy photo equipment for so cheap on Amazon nowadays.
You can buy what?
Photo equipment.
Photo equipment. Okay.
Lighting.
What did you hear?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
You just want to make sure.
I just want to know what you heard in your head.
All I heard was photo. And I was
Okay,
like, wait,
never
what?
mind. Sean, continue.
Anyways,
Sorry.
you can make high quality images pretty easily nowadays. You can build like a studio setup in your apartment, in your dorm. You can buy a single light. You can put like a white piece of paper and a sweep next to a window, have great window light. You know,
That's a good
just use your head. Think about when you look at an image, where's the light coming from? How do you replicate that? Just think about, look around, what do you see? And how can I replicate that?
I got a hot tip. You ready for this hot tip?
There's
yeah.
too much hotness coming out of it.
Lots
right now.
of steaming.
When I was in school, I was too cheap to buy like proper photo seamless, so I just went to the plotter machine and just pulled out a bunch of plotter paper.
You were that guy.
And I was that guy. And I also this is bad. I shouldn't admit this. If I wanted a colored background, I would just print out like 3 feet of like the color blue off the plotter, like just blue ink on the
You were
plotter.
that fucking guy.
Yeah, I was that guy.
That's what your tuition was for anyways, right?
That's true. That's true.
We had to buy our own plotter paper.
Oh man.
Eek.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes I see in product lighting, especially by students or just people who are doing their own, and they aren't necessarily photographers, is just bad lighting in general, or not enough light that causes blurry photos or grainy photos. And so I think if you really invest your time in one photography skill, it'd be learning how to create proper lighting setups, and
Just
actually
be consistent too.
yeah.
That's hard. I feel like whenever I try to take photos, it's always really like weird, and like some photos are really yellow and some are blue, and like I guess there's a setting in there that you have to. You guys have cameras too, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yes,
See, James and I don't have cameras. We have phones. This is like this table is so divided right now. We got you guys over here.
Photographers and non.
But that's all also learning in the post production and the retouching. You know,
Yeah.
you can correct all that stuff. It just takes about 15 minutes to learn, and you're set for
well,
life.
15 minutes.
Well, less than that
Is that
for
how long it
correcting
takes?
correcting
This-
temperature,
this is
color
a pitch.
temperature.
Sean learned everything he knows about photography in
15
minutes.
minutes. Just a quick little
I saw
YouTube
that.
tutorial.
I think I saw that VHS at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Sean Davidson teaches photography. But no, I mean, I wonder, like, did you guys learn how to do product photography or art direction from anybody, or was this all just being resourceful,
Being
like,
resourceful.
just looking at other people's work?
Still learning, but
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
we're all still learning everything.
yeah, just definitely learning on the fly as necessary.
Yeah,
I mean, I also went to school I got a minor in studio photography, so that was
did not know
very
that.
helpful. Yeah.
cool.
A 15-minute long minor.
Yeah, for sure. I just sat at a YouTube screen and it just taught me right there.
Oh wow.
wow.
No, but I mean, before that, just Google. If you don't know something, Google it.
Yeah.
And if you want to know, reach out to someone, reach out to me, ask, and I might be able to give you a download. And
Oh, you're gonna get a lot of messages now.
that's
Sean.
fine. Well,
I
that's,
hear Bing is also good.
Bing is pretty good.
Bing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no. There's no binging in this studio.
One of the other things that I think students should really start paying attention to, and this is kind of something that I really learned from sketching, is actually as you're lighting a scene or an object or photographing it, think about what the light is, how the light is changing the appearance of the object, where the light lines are falling, and how that's going to affect your overall composition. Because obviously, like, the form of the product is nothing without the light that's shining on it, and if you change the light setup, it's going to change how the object looks.
That's super important. I never even connected those two.
Yeah,
But-
that's definitely something that most people overlook and that you don't really think about unless you've been taught to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, and even it kind of goes into the whole thing of composition. Like, how do you frame? Do you guys, when you shoot a product, do you think about the composition while you're taking the photo, or do you crop it later?
Both.
Okay.
I would say, I mean, you always want to get in the ballpark, but you can always crop later, and you can make. I've resurrected images deep from the depths of death.
Okay.
And you can. I don't. Yeah, it's both.
Always
Cropping definitely
err on the
helps.
side of more of the image in frame than less,
Okay. That's a good tip. That's interesting.
because you can always crop it down, but not bigger.
Right. Well, you could if you just do content aware fill. I've
Yeah.
done that before.
Hell
Just- there's some tips and tricks like that. No, this is great, guys. I don't know. Is there anything just any key takeaways, especially for the people that just have a phone, like James and I? Like,
Yeah.
what is that one key thing that, like, if we want to take, maybe even for Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us want to take a nice process photo.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even have to be a final product photo. Like, how do you take a good, just in progress photo? You're in the studio, you're making something. Take 5 seconds. How do we set up a nice photo?
Oh God.
In 5 seconds.
I think it.
5 minutes. 15.
15. I think it also it completely depends on you and what you think makes a good photograph.
Okay.
Because just keep experimenting. Like find a composition that you like, replicate it, and then play around with lighting. Don't try to do it all at once. It's you're never just gonna get it. It's over time. You're learning over time. It's changing. So, but I would say just like think about lighting. It's probably the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like quick on the fly photos, definitely the lighting situation is going to make the most impact of if this looks good or not. But then I would say second most important is the composition. What are you revealing? What are you saying? What are you telling with what you've decided to put in this frame?
Okay. So lighting first, and then composition. Here's another thing that I've done. I always do the janky ways of taking photos. Like sometimes if I don't have the lighting right, or if it's like too dark on one side, you get a piece of paper and you put it on the other side of the product, so you get a little bounce light effect. You kind of light up the darkness, and you see more of those details, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also another concept, or not a concept, but a thing that occurs every day. There is the golden hour.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is that a good time to take photos? The golden hour?
I mean, that's it. Well, does the golden hour happen twice a day, or is it just once?
Twice a day.
Okay, so
Morning
it's
and
like
night.
morning and evening, and it just like gives you that beautiful like dramatic light, not that harsh, just like overhead light. But I know that's
so kids
when,
wake up early.
I mean, that's when you came over for the bottle opener shoot, McKay, and we did the shots just with like golden hour lighting, and it was just direct. We might have bounced the light a little bit,
Yeah.
but that we just used the natural light for that photo shoot.
Yeah, I mean, golden hour is kind of when the sun is about to set or about to or after it's just risen.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this light coming from straight to the side. And so it casts these like really beautiful shadows, lots of rich light.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Well, this is going to sound cheesy, but you're not supposed to stare at the sun, except for there's the 2 times a day where
It's just
it's
gorgeous.
the most beautiful, and you can just look at it for as long as you can.
I don't think that's how we're not promoting that. Don't look at the sun, please.
Just stare at it.
No, all of our
This
listeners
is
are gonna go
why
blind.
this is why James and Sean wear glasses. They stare at the sun.
Yeah.
Twice a
Damage
day.
when we were babies.
Just look at that thing up there.
Twice a day at golden hour.
Oh man.
But no, I think that, and God, I had another point about that. But I know that a lot of commercial shoots like will do golden hour shoots
For sure.
Oh,
for
interesting.
specifically for that lighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other thing. Oh gosh, the other thing that I was going to talk about was no, I've forgotten.
That's okay.
Yeah, keep going.
I think maybe one thing that I just wanted to touch on, or maybe just wrap up, but I kind of just want to hear more about your guys' personal projects or just personal lives. I mean, art direction stuff is amazing, and I think there's a lot of great tips in there, and I think it is really helpful. But I know we have quite a few listeners that are also fans of you guys. So, they've been asking for you guys to come on the pod. So I don't know. Are you guys working on anything interesting? Like what's in the books for you guys?
At the moment, I've just wrapped up that project with Gantry, and as well as kind of a small promotional project with Google, where I got to do some spatial design concepts. And right now, just kind of wrapping up, getting ready for Christmas, seeing what's next.
It is holidays, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Winding down time.
Yeah.
Working on a few personal projects ever since I started this new job. We'll see how long they take to come to fruition, but just finished shooting a year-long project, give or take, kind of turned into this, but been really interested in construction around New York.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I just called it quits on this project, and I've just gone through and selected through about 1,500 photos of selections, and I'm going to work
1,500.
Yeah, over a year, but it's a pretty tight collection of shooting over my lunch break, 1 hour a day, pretty much, or not even that, maybe 10 minutes a day. But I'm going to be working with some friends to create a book on those images, as well as some writing around just the subject of like construction, workwear in New York City.
Is workwear hype now?
It has been for many, many years, and that's kind of why I've started this
Workwear
project.
is the original hype.
Interesting.
I actually kind of wanted to pick your brains about something, because I feel like you guys are much more fashionable than Nick and I. I don't want to speak for Nick, but look
for
at
sure.
him.
Come on, let's it's obvious.
But I do feel like this is something that I've thought about a lot. Is just like this idea of not only how you present your work, but how you present yourself, and how, like, you know, we all have this like this vision of how we might like to be perceived by people, and I feel like you guys do a lot in terms of like just like making yourself
Self-styling.
Yeah, self-styling, basically.
Self-styling.
And I feel like that's something that maybe other people would just like scoff at, like the idea of like styling
like
yourself.
me.
But every time I see Sean, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, same.
But I mean, like, you know, what is that process like of the self-styling? Like, how much shopping are you doing, Sean? I want to know.
Buying very little, shopping all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's like, God, style is such a difficult thing.
I mean, does that come from the same interest as art direction? Like,
I mean, I feel like I've been
photography?
interested. Started skateboarding when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
Skateboarding culture, style is everything.
yeah.
So I think I've just always been interested in it, and it's kind of like, it's not second nature. It's something you work at. I mean, it takes a lot of time, but
Right.
you, just like photography, just like design, you have processes. You know what works well on you, and you know what you like. But you also can be researching and looking online, seeing what other people are wearing, and being like, oh, I like that piece. That kind of goes. I can take that color palette, and I know that I have these clothes that kind of fit that.
Yeah.
And it just takes time. Just like, I don't know, experiment.
Right.
Life's a big experiment.
Well, and also, like, no matter how much people say they don't care what you wear or anything like that, like, no matter what you do, what you wear is going to say something about you.
Right.
And so you always want to make sure that you're sending the message that you want to be sending,
Yeah.
whether that's formal or business or whatever. As designers, I feel like we kind of have unique opportunities to dress ourselves in we have much more freedom in how we dress ourselves, because we're not constrained to wearing a suit or like a uniform.
Yeah.
I had a big argument with my dad about that over a family trip.
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving, you know.
And not even Thanksgiving. It was like a summer beach holiday, and my dad's older, and he has a view that in the office, you like how you present yourself is like your overlords see you in a different way, and if you wear a suit and you wear a tie, you look like a certain way. But as a creative, it's all about being independent, right? It's all about like having a certain viewpoint on the world and like how you dress yourself.
You hear that, Dad?
Yeah.
Did you drop
Take that, Dad.
drop an OK Boomer on him?
North Carolina dads.
Yeah. Those Southern dads. I mean, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But
You gotta love them though.
But I do find that without fail, some of the most like stylish designers that I know, also their work is also immaculately styled.
Yes.
So I feel like there's some sort of link between those two,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and for me personally, like, the clothes I buy or that I'm interested in are definitely comes from my interest in design and craftsmanship. And so I'll spend hours researching clothing, like construction methods for shoes or shirts or jeans or whatever. And I buy the clothes that I'm interested in, the way they're made or like the story behind them. Like me and Sean both buy lots of shirts from this company called Boot Boys.
Don't put them out on the internet. Come on. Oh no! Don't blow up our spot. Don't blow up our spot. No, it's okay.
Not called Boot Boys.
Not at all.
But what they do is they dig into historical archives and find interesting stories and then turn those into T-shirts, like limited editions of T-shirts
And objects.
And yeah, they use T-shirts and clothing and objects as a medium of telling very interesting historical stories.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's sweet. There's one question that we always like to ask the guests at the end, which is like, what are you excited about in like the broader scheme of just, I mean, maybe your life, but just like of the design world and the future of design? Is there anything you're excited about? McKay?
Well, lately I've been really interested in kind of this flat ground. Some people are calling it like the big flat now of this era that we live in, where everything's connected and we have infinite access to information and styles and trends and things like that. And the way that it's starting to create kind of this flatness across the whole creative universe of what is being produced, homogeny,
one might say.
But also like within this interconnectedness, we're almost starting to go backwards in a sense and form tribes because we can now find so much easier the people that we really connect with and really want to be connected with, and we form these tribes, like kind of how we have here in New York with all of the industrial designers know each other, they support each other.
Yeah.
And so in a way, this kind of globalization has also created a village-like culture.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's cool. Yeah. Sean?
Generally, I'm interested in independent designers and the future of that, like taking power away from the larger corporations and like them having say over trends and styles. And especially there's just so many young kids nowadays that are working with each other. There's like bands like Brockhampton or like creative crews out in LA that are like creating graphics around music and around and objects around certain ideas, and just seeing where the internet takes us. I think I'm generally interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that links up to McKay's thing.
Yeah.
Just everything's connected now.
I feel like there's a lot of cases of current musicians and pop stars that feel like it's literally all of internet culture in one person.
For sure.
Like a Post Malone or Billie Eilish or like just I mean most pop stars right now, they just feel like, oh my gosh, this is all of meme culture
For sure.
embedded in one person.
Yeah, because it's how you sell an idea. I mean, it's
Right.
like a German idea that's super simple, and you can sell it to an entire culture,
Yeah.
or to an entire nation or world.
Yeah.
One part of the ideology behind this theory of the big flat now is that everything that's being produced creatively is the same. There's no longer art, there's no longer design, there's no longer marketing. It's all just content. And so, I mean, like literally when I did this job for Google, I was designing furniture and like doing some spatial design for them as a means of marketing on social media.
Yeah.
It never got made. It was just purely for the content.
It was just to spread an idea. It's
For
all
sure.
about just spreading information and ideas.
I mean, obviously, I think we're all kind of in this. McKay brought his dog.
He's snoring.
He's snoring in the background. I think it's kind of all where we are right now. Like we all are. This podcast in itself is a spread of ideas, and it's almost like we're not. It's not like the product is a physical thing anymore. It's more about the story about the product, and I guess that kind of ties back into the art direction stuff. But
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for being on the
Thanks for
podcast.
having
Thank you.
We want to promote you guys, obviously. I don't know if you want
That's
to
my
push...
new title.
What? No, not promote you. I don't have any money to give you. Sorry.
You are now senior podcast guest.
Senior podcast.
Senior podcastist.
Where can people find you? Where can people message you?
I am on Instagram at McKay.Nilson, and my website is McKaynilson.design.
And I'm on Instagram at Sean Davidson, and also on Arena at Sean Davidson.
Okay.
Nice.
With 2 N's or 1 N?
Both are 1 N.
Okay.
Both are 1 N. Sweet,
Yes.
sweet. Sean David. We'll link him in the description and stuff. But thanks again, guys, for coming on the podcast. We really enjoyed it. And to the listeners out there, connect with us, hop on the Discord, chat. Let us know what you guys think about this podcast. And yeah, as always, I'm at Nick P. Baker.
And I'm at I Drawn Receipts.
Peace out.
Later.
See ya.